Hey there, reliable prepper family. Picture this for a second. Your street is quiet, but something feels off, like the calm before a storm, and the kind of storm that doesn't come with a weather warning. That's exactly why we're diving deep today into how to turn your regular home into a place no one wants to mess with when civil unrest hits your area. We're not talking about fantasy fortresses or movie scenes. We're talking real, tactical, down-to-earth stuff you can do right now to make your house harder to enter, harder to scout, and way more trouble than it's worth to anyone thinking about testing your door. And while we're at it, make sure to smash that like button if you're serious about being ready and hit subscribe so you never miss one of these deep dives. And hey, if you really want to go the extra mile and support the channel, hit that join button and become a channel member today. All right, let's get into it. Before you turn a screw or test a sensor, you've got to walk your terrain like it's a map waiting to be understood. So head outside at 3 different times. Morning when the sun's bright and everything feels safe. Evening when shadows stretch long and confidence shrinks. And a couple hours after sunset when porch lights glow and movement blurs in the corners. Then crouch down by your mailbox or kneel at the edge of your fence and take it all in. Not just the obvious stuff like trees and fences, but the odd angles, the blind spots, the routes someone might use to sneak, and start noting things in a cheap spiral notebook, like how that street lamp 3 houses down lights up your sidewalk better than anything you installed, or how that maple tree in the neighbor's yard would give a crouched figure cover you wouldn't see from the front door. And as you pace out distances in plain old footsteps, not yards, because in a stressful moment your body remembers 43 steps from mailbox to hydrangea way better than feet or meters, you'll realize this isn't just about watching. It's about reading the land like a script someone else might try to write against you, and when you sketch it out, mark the choke points, the vulnerable corners, the sight lines from windows or second floors, and rehearse just walking those lines again and again at different hours. You start owning the tempo, and when a stranger appears out of place, your instincts already know what's wrong because the environment around you isn't just familiar, it's part of you. And when you reach that point, you're not just hoping for safety. You're preparing to shape outcomes before anything ever gets to your door. Once you understand your layout, it's time to teach your house to fight with you, starting with the doors, because most residential doors, even the so-called secure ones, are jokes when you look at what's holding them in. Tiny screws, biting into soft pine that someone can kick through in seconds. So rip those out and drive in 4-inch deck screws that anchor deep into framing. Then check if any door swings outward, and if it does, slide a piece of rebar through the hinge barrels. A trick used to reinforce embassy entries because that one simple bar turns a hinge into a structural asset instead of a weakness. Then for your main door on the inside, install a 2x4 barricade bar, just a thick piece of wood dropped into heavy gate brackets lagged into the studs, and hinge one bracket so you can still open and close it when life's normal, but when things start getting loud outside, you just drop it into place. And suddenly, you've turned your entryway into a fortified stop point. And don't stop at doors. Windows are the real Achilles heel of most homes. So measure the inner window frames and cut clear polycarbonate sheets to size. Then use a bead of silicone to seat them tightly inside your existing windows so you've got a layer that can flex and absorb impacts. Meaning that a bat, a rock, or even a brick won't be getting you an immediate breach. And right under those windows, pour in a belt of riverstone or crushed gravel. Something crunchy that no one can cross quietly at night. And if you want to get creative, embed some small vibration sensors beneath the gravel and wire them to LED lights in your hallway or even a silent buzzer in your room so you get advance warning without waking the whole house. And then take a long hard look at your garage door because that's one of the biggest, weakest, most overlooked entry points in any structure. So slide a heavy-duty C-clamp onto the track just above the roller to lock it in place when you're home. And suddenly, you've taken that wide-open vulnerability and turned it into a real barrier. And just like that, your house becomes a layered shell. Not invincible, but slow to breach, full of warning cues and more work than most bad guys are looking to deal with. When you step outside into your yard, you've got to see it not just as a place to grill burgers or let the kids play, but as the first layer of a low-key defensive perimeter. And that starts with visibility. So trim every shrub down to knee height if it's within 20 feet of the house, or move it out farther if you want to keep it tall, because nobody should be able to hide behind your bushes without you knowing. And think like a herder with your layout, using obstacles to steer people along paths you can see. Planters, trellises, lawn chairs, even stacked firewood all subtly guide where someone walks. And the goal is to make the clean, easy-looking path the one that brings people right under your lights and under your gaze, while the side route, the sketchy gap between fence and house, gets full of noisemakers and deterrents like garden tools, kids' toys, or my personal favorite fishing line strung ankle-high across open ground with tin cans, empty soda bottles, or even tiny bells attached. So when someone tries to sneak, they stumble and rattle and alert everyone before they even reach the wall. And for added insurance, lay crushed glass, oyster shell, or even dry leaves along fence lines or beneath windows, because that unmistakable crunch underfoot gives you a few seconds edge, especially at night when sounds carry. And let's not forget your lighting. Motion-activated solar spotlights work great and don't rely on grid power, and pairing them with a game trail cam or security cam hidden in a birdhouse or planter gives you real-time and recorded eyes. And by shaping your yard with these simple layers, you're turning an open lawn into a terrain that exposes movement, delays progress, and makes a bad guy second-guess every step they take, which is exactly what you want. Inside your home, you want early warning without triggering chaos. So instead of relying on loud, chirping alarms that scare the whole block and reveal you're watching, rewire your cheap driveway sensors so the alert shows up as a colored LED flash in your hallway. Green for driveway, red for gate, yellow for side alley. That way, you get quiet but clear data and know exactly which sector tripped without saying a word. Then supplement that with a baby monitor on Vox mode stashed in a birdhouse, behind a flower pot, or up in a shed vent. So when someone whispers, rustles, or even just breathes outside, that soft sound rides straight to your kitchen. And it's not just audio either. Grab a used handheld thermal monocular and train yourself to spot the difference between the neighborhood cat, the raccoon, and a human blob squatting behind your trash bin. While you're at it, install red LED strips near baseboards and stair risers to let you move at night without lighting up rooms or creating shadows visible from the street. Pair that with blackout curtains sealed with Velcro and layers of furniture strategically placed to create cover within your own rooms, so that if someone does get inside, you're not standing in an open box. You've got angles, layers, and places to work from. And if you've got the budget, layer in vibration sensors under gravel or pressure mats near entry points, wired to a silent pager or your wristwatch through Bluetooth relay, so that even while you're doing dishes, watching a movie, or catching a nap, you get silent taps alerting you to movement. With all of that woven together, your home stops being just a shelter and starts acting like a smart, reactive perimeter with you in the command seat. When it comes to arming yourself in your home, the key is balance. Having reliable, simple, stress-resistant tools that you've practiced with, staged where you actually live and can deploy without second-guessing or tripping over gear in a panic. So, the humble pump-action 12-gauge shotgun earns its place at the top of that list, not just because of stopping power, but because in low-light hallway situations, it's easier to orient, harder to fumble, and more forgiving of awkward shooting angles. I always recommend keeping it loaded with reduced recoil buckshot, which is more manageable indoors and still delivers the force you need while keeping a flashlight separate from the weapon, or mounted with a remote switch depending on what you're comfortable using without flagging your own family. Then, pair that with a lightweight carbine chambered in .223 or .556 with a red dot, zeroed for 15 paces, roughly the width of your driveway or your backyard, and keep the setup slick. No 50 attachments, just a sling, iron sights, and maybe a light if it's built for real use. And yes, tape a tourniquet to the stock, because injuries happen fast and you won't be running for the med bag when you're bleeding. Now, besides firearms, stash an air rifle somewhere less obvious, like the pantry or garage cabinet, because it gives you quiet, decisive options like popping streetlights, shattering windows, or disabling equipment without alerting the whole street. And right beside that, park a pressurized garden sprayer full of OC pepper. Mix the good stuff, not the stuff that smells nice. And if someone's pushing up your stairs and you're not legally cleared to shoot, fogging that hallway gives you a tactical pause, buys you breath, and gives you space, which often means survival. And don't forget the improvised tools. A flat pry bar, a 3-cell mag light, or even a wooden baton tucked behind the dresser gives you leverage in hand-to-hand situations where firearms aren't safe or allowed. When every one of these tools is staged where the fight might actually begin, not buried in a safe in the guest room, you're not a guy with gear. You're a person with a plan. Night belongs to whoever prepares for it in advance, not to whoever spends the most on night vision goggles. So the first step is reclaiming the flow of your own home in the dark by adding dim red LED strips along the baseboards, behind furniture, or even under the edges of counters so that at 2 a.m. when the power's out, you're not fumbling or turning on overhead lights that cast your silhouette like a shadow puppet for anyone watching outside. Then, install smart bulbs in your main room so you can remotely cut the lights, dim them to a specific percentage, or flip them from white to red without moving from your spot. Seal your blackout curtains with Velcro along the edges so even a small lamp or phone glow inside doesn't seep into the night. Now practice moving, safely, quietly, efficiently, because that's the piece most people forget. Walking through your own home at night should feel as fluid as walking through it during the day. And if it doesn't, fix it now, whether that means moving furniture, taping down rugs, or rehearsing barefoot in silence. And while you're at it, consider your temperature control. Blackouts during civil unrest often coincide with power loss, meaning you could be defending your home in 85 degrees or 15, and those changes destroy alertness faster than stress. So, stage wool blankets, thick socks, and even a backup hoodie near each sleeping area, so your team stays regulated and focused when the AC or heater no longer helps. And keep a metronome or timer nearby so you can practice slow breathing drills to drop your heart rate and sharpen your focus before you move into a dark room, because owning the night isn't just about seeing first. It's about staying calm and fluid when the darkness wants to disorient and freeze you up. What most people miss when they talk about home defense is the mental and emotional load of holding your ground night after night under real-world pressure. So your job is to inoculate your mind and your family's minds with calm rituals, clear structure, and subtle psychological signals that make you harder to intimidate and harder to surprise. And, it starts with what strangers see from the outside. Muddy size 13 boots tucked just inside the front porch, an empty shotgun shell lying in the flower bed, a rusted "Beware of Dog" sign zip-tied to the gate. None of it needs to be flashy or aggressive, just small mental triggers that suggest resistance and readiness. Inside the house, routine is your best friend because people fall apart when they don't know what to do. So after dinner once a week, run a 2-minute position drill where everyone moves to their assigned spot. Radios click on, lights go low, and then, after the drill ends, you go right back to normal life. Over time, that pattern builds familiarity and reduces hesitation. Then, end each night with a 5-minute sit rep on the back patio or in the hallway, where you review one win, however small. Maybe someone noticed a light bulb out, maybe a battery got replaced, maybe a new tool got tested. Use that time to reset, breathe, and box breathe as a group, so the heart rate drops and the body recenters. Because even when nothing happens, even when it feels like overkill, that routine hardens your emotional core and helps your people lean on certainty when chaos flares up. And every time you run the drill, every time you do the debrief, you are pushing back against panic and reminding everyone under your roof that this home isn't just a structure. It's a position of strength. When a situation drags on past the initial flash of chaos, your ability to endure determines whether you're in control or simply waiting to get overwhelmed, so your goal is to make sure your basic needs are distributed, concealed, and protected from both loss and overuse, which starts with water. Because the folks who stack it all in the basement or garage are often the first to lose it if those areas become inaccessible. So instead, stash 5-gallon cubes under beds, behind couches, inside closets, wherever there's dead space. And rotate it out every few months. Then learn how to tap your water heater for an emergency 40 to 50-gallon supply using a simple hose and valve wrench, and move to power by treating your vehicle as a backup generator with a 1,000-watt inverter connected to the battery that can recharge radios, flashlights, and fans during 15-minute idle cycles and for sleep, which matters more than anyone admits. Build blackout sleep caves using wool blankets draped over conduit arches in the safest corner of the house, so your team rotates through real rest, not just anxious downtime, because a sleep-deprived defender is a walking liability. And when it comes to food, decentralize that 2 dry goods go in decorative tins, under the coffee table, inside labeled boxes marked holiday lights, anything to make them invisible to looters and obvious to you. And don't forget morale boosters like candy cards, puzzles, and printed photos, because the longer a siege drags on, the more it becomes a test of patience and cohesion. And the family that eats warm lentils by candlelight while quietly listening to shortwave news is in far better shape than the house next door, screaming at each other because they ran out of cereal and patience on day 3. Every stronghold needs an exit plan, not because you plan to run, but because the unexpected often decides for you. So start by burying a PVC capsule or weatherproof case under the mailbox rocks, in the doghouse, or behind a planter, somewhere ordinary but fast to access. And inside that capsule stash a few $100 in small bills, a laminated paper map, photocopies of IDs, a small radio, and a thumb drive with encrypted data in case you need to rebuild from scratch. Then identify 2 rally points, a local one within walking distance, and a farther one if you have to leave the area. And rehearse reaching them in bad light, in rain, and under time pressure so your legs know the path better than your brain does. And if you've got people you trust nearby, build reciprocal plans with them. Shared signals, shared code words, shared caches, and chalk symbols inside your trash can lid or on the back fence that communicate silently whether you're home, gone, or already moving. And every few months run an exfil test where you all grab go bags, say nothing, and move from house to rally point without using phones. And when you circle back, you adjust the plan based on what felt wrong or slow. And the reason for all this is simple. If your neighborhood shifts from safe to unstable, from tension to outright aggression, you may only have one shot at a clean withdrawal, and the people who practiced will move like ghosts while everyone else stumbles through the dark clutching house keys in panic. In today's world, the fight for your perimeter isn't just at the fence or the back gate. It's also in the digital fog that surrounds every smart home. So start by killing your digital profile where it's loudest. Rename your Wi-Fi network to something dull, like printer_2873. Hide the SSID broadcast, and drop the router power output so the signal barely covers your 4 walls instead of bleeding into the sidewalk. Then stash your backup devices inside Faraday pouches or old metal ammo cans to keep them insulated from outside interference or solar events. And store your maps, contacts, and vital records on thumb drives with no Wi-Fi history and no cloud sync turned on. Because nothing spreads panic faster than a bricked phone and no idea where to go next. Then set up an SDR radio to sweep the 900 megahertz range where most drones chatter with their remotes. So if one starts hovering near your roof, you'll know before you hear it. And if you're comfortable walking the line, use a Yagi antenna or white noise burst to jam the control link for a few seconds, long enough to make it drift off or crash, and always monitor your own info leaks. Don't post photos of your gear, don't live stream patrols, don't brag about caches or tactics, and treat your home's digital signature like you treat the rest of your OPSEC. Tight, quiet, boring, and hard to trace. Take one last breath with me. Slow in, feel the chest glide out, hold for that tiny beat, then let it ease free, because everything we walked through tonight, from pacing driveway geometry under a gentle sunrise to swapping a single screw the factory never intended to a silent LED flash that blinks only for you, every trick of charcoal across the nose before crossing open ground, and every wool blanket cave carved out for proper REM, every subtle psychological thorn like muddy size 13s or a rusty beware of dog sign, each layer braids into one mission. Convince chaos your address costs far too much effort. If any spark from this marathon lit a new idea, crush that like button, send the video to friends you'd trust to watch your 6, and grab the ebook plus the newsletter, because the next supply chain wobble or protest march shouldn't catch any of us staring blank. And until we chat again, keep stacking skills. Keep an eye on the horizon and keep that heart steady, because calm minds hold the line when everyone else panics.